I was messing around on my phone the other night, just scrolling through satellite maps. It's a weird habit, I know.
Oh, yeah?
But there's this specific frustration that comes with it now. We have this illusion of total knowledge. You pull up a view, you scroll over a continent, and you think, okay, I see it. I know it's there.
Right, the Google Earth effect.
Yeah.
We mistake visibility for understanding.
Exactly. Just because you see a pixelated rock doesn't mean you understand its ecosystem. And that is why today's deep dive is, I think, going to be so satisfying. Because we're looking at a place that, despite being right there on the map, remains a massive blank spot in our actual, our real understanding.
It is genuinely one of the last true frontiers in southern Africa,
Yeah.
a real edge of the map.
We are heading to that absolute edge. Northern Namibia, the Kunene region. Specifically, we are trying to crack the code of the Baynes Mountains.
Crack the code is a good way to put it.
And I say that because the sources we've pulled for this, everything from the South African Journal of Botany to expedition logs and risk management studies, they all paint this place not just as a landscape, but as a fortress.
That is the perfect word for it, a fortress. When you look at the geology, it's built like a defensive structure.
So here's the mission for this deep dive. We need to understand how this fortress was built, the geology, then what's trying to kill everything inside it, the climate.
And then the survivors.
The survivors, the incredible rare biology, and the people who actually call this hazardous environment home.
It's a classic story of adaptation. But to get the adaptation, you have to understand the pressure first.
So let's start with that foundation, the geography itself, because when I was reading the data, I kept getting tripped up on the terminology. They don't just call it a mountain range.
No, they don't.
They call it an escarpment plateau. And for you, the listener, trying to picture this, why is that distinction so important?
It changes the entire geometry of the landscape. When you think mountain range, you might picture rolling peaks, maybe some valleys, things that undulate.
Right, something you can sort of hike up gradually.
An escarpment is different. It's a shelf. It's a dramatic, sudden shift in elevation, a real break in the Earth's crust.
So we are not talking about a gentle slope here.
Not at all. In the Baynes, you're looking at a variance that is, well, it's frankly hard to wrap your head around without being there. The base is around 700 meters.
Okay.
But the plateau itself spikes up to over 2,000 meters.
Wow. That's a vertical gain of 1,300 meters. That's, what, over 4,000 feet? In a really compressed distance, that is huge.
It is. And that verticality defines everything else we're going to talk about. It's a barrier. It affects wind, moisture, and it certainly affects human access. It's a literal wall.
And it's not a soft wall, is it? This isn't just crumbling dirt or loose scree. The geological surveys are really clear. They highlight the composition as quartz sandstone. Now, I know quartz is hard, but what does that mean for the actual scenery?
It means durability. Sandstone is sedimentary, layers of sand compressed over millions of years. But when it's full of quartz,
it gets tough.
Incredibly tough. It's very resistant to chemical weathering. It doesn't just dissolve or melt away like limestone might. It fractures. It breaks into these sharp blocks.
So that explains why the expedition logs keep describing it as jagged. It's not smoothing out over time.
Precisely. Because the rock is so hard, it holds these steep vertical faces. It allows for deep, narrow gorges that don't just collapse on themselves.
And that geological toughness is, well, it's the only reason the Baynes Gorge can even exist.
Exactly.
Let's talk about that gorge, because looking at the maps and the photos, it really seems to be the centerpiece of this entire region. You've got this massive block of quartz, and then the Kunene River just slicing right through it.
The Kunene is the lifeblood here. It's the border between Namibia and Angola. But its interaction with the Baynes Mountains is geologically violent.
Violent. I like that.
The river is flowing west, it's heading for the Atlantic, and it has to get past the Zebra Mountains and then slam right into the Baynes.
It sounds like a clash of titans, the unstoppable force of the water meeting this immovable object.
And the water wins, eventually. But in the process, it creates this dramatic, high-velocity transition point. This gorge is the river's final major obstacle before it just spills out into the Namib Desert.
That transition really stood out to me. The Baynes Mountains are essentially the gateway to desolation.
They're the last stand. Once the river passes the Baynes Gorge, it enters one of the oldest, driest deserts on the entire planet. So the Baynes ecosystem is effectively an island.
An island of high-altitude rock.
Exactly. Surrounded by arid plains and then just absolute desert.
Speaking of arid, we have to talk about the climate, because one of the most striking sources in our stack is a paper titled Risk Management in a Hazardous Environment.
That sets a very specific tone, doesn't it?
It does. When scientists use words like hazardous in the title of a paper, you know it is not a vacation spot.
It implies that just existing there is an achievement.
And the rainfall data really drives that home. The annual rainfall in the Baynes is about 200 millimeters.
Which is only about 8 inches.
18 inches.
For you to put that in perspective, that's the threshold for being considered semi-arid to arid. It's barely enough to sustain scrub vegetation. A tropical rainforest might get that in a single afternoon.
And here, that has to last the whole year.
The whole year.
And yet, and this is the paradox that I just love about this place, you have this bone-dry, sun-baked sandstone plateau, getting maybe a cup of water a year, and cutting right through its basement is the Kunene River, a massive, permanent water source.
It's a juxtaposition of extremes. You have absolute scarcity on the peaks and potential abundance down on the gorge. But this is key.
It's not easy to get to.
The topography makes it almost impossible. Those steep quartz cliffs we just talked about, they make that water very, very difficult to access if you're up on the plateau.
So it's a tease. The water's right there, but it's 1,000 meters down a sheer cliff.
Exactly. And this contrast, this tension, it creates niches. Biology hates a vacuum. If there is a way to survive, something will find it.
But the life that evolves there has to be very, very specific.
Extremely specific. High altitude, quartz rock, low water, intense sun.
Which brings us to the flora. I'll be honest, when I think biodiversity hotspot, I'm thinking, the Amazon or a coral reef.
A misty jungle, yeah.
Not a dry rock pile in Namibia, but the Red Data Book of Namibian plants says otherwise.
The Red Data Book is a fascinating thing. It's basically a dossier of the most vulnerable and unique life in the country. If a plant is in that book, it means it's rare, threatened, or endemic.
Endemic, meaning it lives there and absolutely nowhere else.
Right. Which confirms that the Baynes act as a refuge. Because it's an island habitat, things evolve there in total isolation.
Let's look at the headliner here. Baynesia lophophora.
I mean, it's in the name.
You can't get more on the nose than that.
You really can't. When taxonomists name a genus Baynesia, they're flagging it as the signature species of the entire range. It's a succulent. It's adapted to cling to those rocky crevices we talked about.
What does it take for a plant to survive there? It can't just be about needing less water. It has to deal with the rock.
Oh, it's about thermal regulation. It's about root systems that can penetrate microscopic cracks in quartz to find moisture. And it's about surviving insane levels of solar radiation. Baynesia has solved all those problems. It's built for the fortress.
And it's not alone. We've also got Euphorbia ohiva. Now, Euphorbia is a huge family, right? I feel like I've seen that name on houseplants.
You have. Poinsettias are euphorbias, but so are these incredible cactus-like succulents all over Africa. It's a massive, diverse family.
But ohiva is different.
Euphorbia ohiva is a specialist. It was described relatively recently, and it's only found in this specific corridor of the Baynes and just across the river in Angola.
That recently part is what blew my mind. We were looking at citations from the South African Journal of Botany, and the dates on some of these discoveries are from the late 2000s.
2008, 2011.
In the timeline of botanical discovery, that is yesterday.
That's practically this morning.
It just completely shatters that Google Earth idea we started with. We think we know the world, but here's a distinct species of life, and we didn't even give it a name until after the first iPhone was already out.
It speaks to those Slangkloof expedition logs you mentioned. The fact that we still need to mount expeditions, capital E, tells you everything.
You don't discover new species in a city park.
Exactly. You discover them in places that are physically hostile to human presence. It's the difficulty that protects the mystery.
I like that.
And to find something like Euphorbia ohiva or Abrus cacuensis, that's another one, a legume species specific to the area, a botanist has to physically hike into a zone with no roads, minimal water, and vertical cliffs.
It makes you wonder what else is there. If we found a new euphorbia in 2011, is there a beetle or a lizard or some kind of lichen that we just haven't seen yet?
Statistically, it's almost a certainty. The Baynes are what we call a center of endemism. The isolation and the unique geology create a laboratory for evolution.
It's like a mini Galapagos.
But instead of an ocean, it's surrounded by desert.
I want to pivot a little bit from the plants to the people. Because while we're looking at this as a scientific wonderland, for the people in the Kunene region, This is home.
Right.
And that brings us back to that paper, Risk Management in a Hazardous Environment.
This is such a crucial layer to add. We can't just look at the rocks and flowers.
Mm.
This is a lived-in landscape.
Yeah.
And that source discusses pastoral societies, people who herd livestock.
How do you even herd livestock in a fortress of quartz with 8 inches of rain?
With incredible difficulty and profound traditional knowledge. The risk management the paper talks about is all about diversification and mobility.
Yeah.
You can't just stay in one spot.
You have to know where to go.
You have to know where the water is in the dry season. You have to know which of those obscure plants are good for your goats and which ones are poisonous.
So the pastoralists are essentially practical botanists.
They have to be. Their survival literally depends on reading the signals of the environment. The Baynes Mountains might look like a barrier to us, but for the local populations, they're a part of a complex resource map.
It redefines the word hazardous, doesn't it? It's not just dangerous, it's unforgiving of mistakes.
That's it, exactly. In a city, if you make a mistake, you miss a bus, you forget your wallet, it's an annoyance.
Yeah, an inconvenience.
In the Baynes, if you misjudge the water reserves or the grazing for your herd, the consequences are immediate and severe.
There was one little detail in our research stack that I found kind of funny, but also oddly poetic. The main encyclopedia entry we found for the Baynes Mountains was flagged as a stub.
The dreaded stub.
For anyone who doesn't spend their life on wikis, a stub basically means we know this thing exists, but we don't have enough information to write a real article about it.
It's a placeholder. It's a watch this space.
And I just love the irony. We have terabytes of data on, I don't know, the fictional history of movie characters.
Sure.
But for this massive 2,000-meter-high geological feature that dictates the flow of a major river and hosts unique species, we have a stub.
You know, I actually find that really reassuring.
How so?
It confirms that the world isn't fully consumed yet. The fact that the Baynes Mountains are a stub means they haven't been commodified. They haven't been turned into a tourist trap with a paved road and a gift shop.
They're still wild enough to be unknown to the algorithm.
Yes. The stub is a badge of honor. It means the mountains are still winning. And it also highlights the value of the sources we do have. That paper on pastoral risk, those botanical descriptions, those are the flickering lights in the dark.
They're the only reason we aren't completely blind to what's happening there.
Exactly. Without those expeditions, we wouldn't even know what to put in the stub. We wouldn't know about Baynesia. Science is the first step in filling in the map.
So let's try to synthesize this picture we've built of the hidden fortress. We have a geological anomaly, a massive uplift of hard quartz sandstone.
Which creates a vertical world of cliffs and gorges, rising 2,000 meters into the air.
We have a climate.
That's the right question to ask. Is a Baynesia flowering? Is a herd moving up the slope? The map can't tell you that.
And that leads me to a final thought I want to leave with you, the listener. We've talked about how recent some of these discoveries are. 2011. In the grand scheme of things, we just got here.
We have barely scratched the surface.
So if we've found entire new species of plants in the last decade just by hiking a few of these gorges, what is happening on the peaks that no one has climbed yet?
It's highly probable there are species up there, insects, maybe small reptiles, other succulents, that have never been cataloged by science.
So the next time you feel like the world is fully explored or that there are no mysteries left, just remember the Baynes. Remember there's a fortress of rock in Namibia that is mostly just a stub in our collective database.
And it's perfectly happy staying that way.
Yeah.
The silence of the sandstone doesn't need our approval.
Not at all. Thanks for taking this trip to the edge of the map with us. It's a good reminder that there's always more to find.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you on the next deep dive. Stay curious.